In this video, we'll be diving into the 5 invincible traps that can destroy your art career. So these are psychological and behavioral patterns that quietly sabotage momentum and are the hardest to spot because they disguise themselves as rational caution. So let's dive into them. The first one is the fear of visibility, which is very common among artists. We've seen artists hesitate to show up online or to speak boldly about their craft. And we all know that there's only one way that guarantees success for us artists, and that is when our work is seen. Visibility is part of the job, and without it, no matter how great your art is, it remains undiscovered. And you see that fear alone will cost you a lot, from being inconsistent in marketing, and therefore you're invincible to buyers. And when you finally land a buyer, you're afraid to sell. You get stuck in comparison and perfectionism of your pieces, and falling victim to the mistake of waiting for opportunities instead of creating them. Meanwhile, there's a less skilled artist somewhere, probably someone with half your skill level, who shares their progress daily and talks about their creative journey, shares their pricing confidently, and for that, they get the shows, the commissions, the collectors, simply because they are seen. You need to understand this. Talent plus hiding is just a hobby, but when you combine talent or skills with visibility, that's a career you're building. The second point is imposter syndrome. And this comes out when an artist doesn't see much value in their skills or in their results. Not applying to galleries, grants, and exhibition because you don't think that you're good enough yet. You underprice your work because you don't believe that your art has real value. You avoid selling because you fear that people will discover that you are not legit. You stop experimenting out of fear that mistakes will prove that you're not talented. You rely on validations instead of trusting your own creative voice. And there are those that hide their achievements so that they don't seem arrogant. And there's more. Over time, this leads to stalled progress, frustration, or even burnout. When you check your work, it looks amazing. But the problem comes in when you start comparing it to other guys, and therefore you feel like a fraud. You think that real artists have formal training in gallery representations, something that you've never had. And so you undervalue yourself, thinking that you just got lucky because people like your work. So what happens? You get to a point where you don't raise your prices, even though collectors keep buying. You turn down a local gallery show because you feel like you're not ready. And you have a tendency of deleting your posts after uploading them because you think they look amateur. The third one is perfectionism. Here is where you want to wait until you have everything or until everything is ready. And what this leads to is paralysis and loss of opportunities. Okay, let's dive deeper. You paint beautiful portraits, but you spend weeks on micro details no one will ever notice. I'm not saying that is bad. I normally do that. But the problem comes in when every time you finish a piece, you see flaws. And so you go back and redo the same painting repeatedly. You never show your work in progress because you're afraid that it'll look imperfect. You even reject commissions out of fear that you won't meet expectations. You have so many finished pieces, but you don't think they are ready enough. And you keep telling yourself that you'll apply to galleries after coming up with a perfect collection. And so what happens? Your followers lose interest, commission slows, and you quietly wonder why others with loose technique and less talent seem to be thriving. See, the thing is, you aren't failing because your art isn't good. You're failing because your work never leaves the studio. And if you aren't careful, perfectionism can leave serious wounds on your art business. And this is what will happen. You'll continue overworking your pieces until they lose that freshness and energy. You'll quit projects halfway because you got bored or because it doesn't look good enough. You'll start treating every decision as if it's life or death. And you're afraid that if you make a wrong style, it's gonna ruin your art career. You'll avoid experimenting for fear of wasting time or materials. And you'll keep on raising the bar until no achievement feels real to you. And all these things just turn creativity into pressure. And something that you're supposed to enjoy turns into a chore. And the business side of it, low output, low visibility, translating to low sales. The fourth one is burnout rhythm. Ever found yourself in a cycle where you create intensely, and for that you overwork yourself, you go into a crash, you avoid art for some times, you feel guilty for avoiding it, you force yourself back, and the cycle continues. That is called burnout rhythm, and it can have serious impact on your business. And don't confuse it with passion. It's an unstable business pattern disguised as dedication. It's something that makes artists get a sudden burst of inspiration, and therefore they create for almost 12 hours a day, and that goes on for weeks. And when it comes to posting, it is constantly, a hype gets built, and they even get inquiries from potential clients. But then, the worst happens. They hit a wall. They get exhausted, mentally drained, and they start avoiding the studio. Messages go unanswered, they don't even open their email, and they have taken a break from posting for weeks, sometimes even months. And when they finally return, they feel guilty and behind. And so what do? They push themselves harder so as to make up for the lost time, not realizing that they are actually triggering another burnout cycle. And so the question is, do they lack talent? Nope. They are not struggling because they lack talent. They are struggling because they lack rhythm, not ability. You should understand that your business grows when you go for a steady output and then a strategic rest. It is always good to schedule a recovery. And finally, the fifth one is identity confusion. This happens when artists bounce between styles, audiences, and intentions, trying to be everything at once. And so nothing becomes clear, memorable, and marketable. When an artist doesn't have a grounded creative identity, they tend to change styles constantly so as to fit trends, switching between mediums with no long-term vision. They update their bio after every few months. They mimic other artists instead of finding their own voice, and for that, they attract random followers instead of true collectors. It's also the same category of artists who feel insecure about pricing because their work lacks a defined value narrative. They'll market their work inconsistently because they don't even know what they're selling or to whom. And this leads to a unrecognizable brand, no consistent audience, no collector trust, no cohesive body of work, and no momentum. You really need to understand that people don't invest in uncertain stuff. So let your collectors see clarity, confidence, and consistency. The art market doesn't reward the artist who can do everything. It rewards the artist who is known for something. And so the question that arises is, do they lack talent? No. What they lack is direction. And with that, we are done with our list of 5 invincible traps that can destroy your art business. It's good to be aware so as to avoid them. Number 1 was fear of visibility, where artists hesitate to go online or speak boldly about their work. Number 2 was imposter syndrome, where artists undervalue their work and they don't think they are good enough. Number 3 was perfectionism, where artists want to wait until they have everything ready or they have the perfect art so as to take the next step. Number 4 was burnout rhythm, where artists are stuck in big bursts of motivation and inspiration and crashes. And finally, number 5, we have identity confusion, where artists are trying to be everything at once. And so nothing becomes clear, memorable, or marketable. So thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing. See you on the next video.